We will be discussing two Native women's experiences in boarding schools and mission schools where their identity was stripped away from them. Zikala Shah was in a boarding school during the 1860s, and Jackie attended a mission school in Ventura, California in the 1950s. This is their story.
They were each assigned very hazardous duties.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Angela Adepa Scheinert, and I'm from the Chumash tribe. I went to Holy Cross School for about 4 years, and I don't know, it was a good school, I thought. But the training that the kids had years ago was nothing like that. Anyway, I like the sisters that I have. They were all pretty nice. There's some real strict ones. I couldn't play with the other kids. Right. I had to go recess time. I don't know what I did wrong. And I remember going out on the teeter-totter, and I had to stay out there during the recess time and study, I guess. And they did use the ruler on us a couple of times. So, but I don't know, maybe I was bad. I don't know.
By the 1880s, all the Indian tribes that had once roamed freely had to submit to the U.S. government. Zikala Shah was only 8 when missionaries came to the Yankton Reservation, taking the children to the White Indiana Manual Labor Institute, a Quaker school. Zikala Shah attended this Quaker school for 3 years. She later wrote The School Days of the Indian Girl, where she described the misery of having her heritage stripped away, cutting her hair, and forced to conform to white culture. So this is a quote from her story. This is the passage of when she's on the train ride to the land of the red apples. I sink deep into the corner of my seat, for I resented being watched. Directly in front of me, children who were no longer than I hung themselves upon the backs of their seats, with their bold white faces towards me. Sometimes they took their forefingers out of their mouths and pointed at my moccasined feet. Their mothers, instead of reproving such rude curiosity, looked closely at me and attracted their children's further notice to my blanket. This embarrassed me and kept me constantly at the verge of tears. So what I get out of this quote here from the story is just of how embarrassed she is to actually even accept her culture, because she's surrounded by other white people and they're just staring at her and not accepting that she's different and that she's part of a different culture.
When you attended the school, did you learn anything about your Native history? Like, did they ever talk about Columbus or the Chumash people or the history about the school?
I don't recall
school?
Anything like that.
None, yeah.
I don't. It's just regular schooling. I mean, we did our Catholic stuff.
Yeah.
That we do. Went to church every morning.
So when did you discover you were Chumash or Native?
Well, I think I always knew because when I was small, I can remember somebody telling me, "Don't let anybody know that you're Indian." Mm-hmm. So I don't know whether it's just me or what, but I used to wear everything up here.
Oh, okay.
And everything down here. I didn't show any skin. That's all I remember as a kid.
Okay.
Don't show your skin. But one Christmas, my brother and I we played the part as Raggedy Ann and Andy and the Indian, I think it was Christmas time.
Yeah.
A group of Indian people came and did the dancing, and I had to go down to the restroom or something, and 2 Indians blocked me in the hallway, and I was really scared. So, but other than that, it was nice.
So did your parents encourage you or embrace their heritage? Or you said you lived with your father, so did he kind of not know much about being...
My father didn't know anything about it that I know of.
Yeah.
I didn't get reunited with my mother until I was like 16.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, well, down the road I got married.
Yeah.
And I always wanted horses.
Yeah.
My brother's a professional calf roper, and he's still doing it.
I had arrived in this wonderful land of rosy skies, but I was not happy as I had thought I should be. My long travel and bewildering sights had exhausted me. I fell asleep, having deep, tired sobs. My tears were left to dry themselves in streaks because neither my aunt nor my mother was near to wipe them away. So from this quote, what I get out of this is that she is completely isolated in a land that she does not know, and it's a different culture. People don't understand what she's going through, and nobody is there to support her, it's just her basically in this school, and she has to conform to the white culture basically.
Have you ever taken it upon yourself to teach children or people about your culture? Have you told any stories or done anything?
The only thing, I haven't told any stories. The only thing I really got interested as I got older was in the paddling over to the islands.
Mm.
I love doing that. And they told us, I think it took about 26 miles to get over to the Channel
A
Islands.
big group of you guys?
Mm-hmm. We switched off and on because there's other people that wanted to do the paddling. I was a paddler. And we camped there, we celebrated. As we came over to the shoreline, there was a group of Indians on the shore there, and they had the fire going. And they sang for us a welcome song, and we had a great time. And then we all ate together. We talked, everybody was kind of scared at first, but then after a while, it just got easier. And it's kind of interesting meeting new people, seeing what they're like, and I've had hard times, and I know they have hard times, so it's easier for me to understand, I think. So I paddled for a couple of years, and then I had to give it up because I couldn't climb in and climb out.
Did that experience make you feel closer to your ancestry? Did it make you feel?
It made me feel clean.
Empowered, yeah.
It made me feel clean, and just being out there is like.
That's what your ancestors did, yeah.
Yeah, they traded off, came back, did the collecting, trade beads and so forth, food.
I'll be reading an excerpt from Zeke Kalashaw's personal story of the cutting of my long hair. When Juduin said, "We have to submit because they are strong," I rebelled. "No, I will not submit. I will struggle first," I answered. And by that it means that she didn't want to be like everyone else. She didn't want to have her hair cut. And there was also a little boy in this book who said that he wanted to cut his hair to look like everyone else so that would make him feel more comfortable for him to fit in. But she knew where she came from. She didn't want to forget it, and she wanted to keep her long hair. I watched my chance, and when no one noticed, I disappeared. I crept up the stairs quietly as I could in the squeaking shoes. My moccasins had been exchanged for shoes. Along the hall I passed without knowing whither I was going. Turning aside to open a door, I found a large room with 3 white beds in it. The windows were covered with dark green curtains which made the room very dim. Thankful that no one was there, I directed my steps toward the corner farthest from the door. On my hands and knees I crawled under the bed and cuddled myself in the dark corner. From my hiding place I peered out, shuddered with fear whenever I heard footsteps nearby. Though in the hall, loud voices were calling my name, and I knew it was even Juduin, that he was searching for me. I did not open my mouth to answer. Then the steps were quickened and the voices became excited. The sounds came nearer and nearer. Women and girls entered the room. I held my breath and watched them open the closet doors and peek behind large trunks. Someone threw up the curtains, and the room was filled with sudden light. What caused them to stop and look around under the bed, I did not know. I remembered being dragged out, though I resisted by kicking and scratching wildly. In spite of myself, I carried downstairs and tied fast in a chair.
So what's your opinion on Indian Ed in classes? Do you think it's a valuable class?
I have, I think it's about 7 grandkids that are going. The ages are 17, I think, to about 7. I think Alex is going to, or Daniel's going to be 7.
Yeah.
And he loves Indian Ed.
Yeah.
But the kids want to know, why can't we have it more than 1 month?
1 day a month, yeah.
And it's like, I'll go to the meeting with you and try to find out what's going on. Well, the problem is there's not enough money. A lot of the parents could volunteer. I mean, this is my thing. A lot of the parents could volunteer their time if they're interested in it. But from what I hear now, there's no money. So, and if you don't have enough quantum to show that you are Shumash or any Indian tribe to come in, I guess you can't get in there now.
In spite of myself, I was carried downstairs and tied fast in a chair. I cried aloud, shaking my head all the while until I felt the cold blades of the scissors against my neck and heard them gnaw off one of my thick braids. Then I lost my spirit. Since that day I was taken from my mother, I had suffered extreme indignities. People had stared at me. I had been tossed around in the air like a wooden puppet, and now my long hair was shingled like a coward's. From her tribe, having her hair cut short is not a symbol of virtue, but a symbol of cowardliness. Also, it represented people in mourning. So by her already being dragged out and being forced to conform to all the ways of this school, she is then feeling alienated. In my anguish, I moaned for my mother, but no one came to comfort me. Not a soul reasoned quietly with me, as my mother used to do. For now, I was the only one of many little animals driven by a herder. What I get from this is nothing but feeling devastation for her.
Oh, so when you were researching your history, what kind of documentation did you have to prove you were Native? Like
I went and did a family. I started doing genealogy,
Okay.
and I've been doing it for about 37 years.
Nice.
And I have all kinds of binders with pictures. And
Yeah, show us that.
this is some of it. I have like your census.
Okay. So these are all records that you've kept.
This is what I've captured.
All your records. And when did you start collecting the records? You want to say age-wise?
Age-wise? Well, let's see. If I'm 57, about 30 years ago.
30 years? Okay.
I wish I would have had more experience with it because I got a late start in life. You know, I got my horses when I think I was like 30 years old. I started out, I didn't know how to go about it, so I thought I'll go into ranching. And then once I got into ranching, I was like, no, I don't think this is the right place to go. So I went to the library, and I got a lot of information there. And some of it tells you who lived with who, what their ages were, and what kind of work they did.
So you had their names?
I had names. I forgot those. Some diaries that I kind of inherited.
Nice.
And it had some information.
Very valuable.
And every time I go back on them, I keep finding different things. So then I get distracted and go somewhere else and start doing it. I have marriage certificates.
Wow.
What years, burial certificates.
And you're related to all these people?
Wow. I'm afraid so. But anyway, I'm related to just about everybody in Ventura County, I think.
So you can agree that you learned more about Indians on your own time than when you were in school.
Right.
Yeah.
So we talked about the past, the present, and now we want to talk about the future and what we can do for Indigenous people.
This all starts with education. It has been overlooked in our education system and hidden from true history what happened to the Native people of America. The way we can help this or get the word out is funding for schools, having Indian Ed accessible to Native and non-Native children to have the true history exposed.
We could also start by informing the parents. We could send the kids home with an informative paper describing how we want to encourage the classrooms to teach more of the Indigenous people's side of the story. Alongside with these two solutions, we can invite Native Americans to come into the schools and provide their history and start with storytelling so that they can inform the new generations about their history.